In this video, I'd like to show you how to navigate within MyMathLab. When you open up our eCampus course and come to our home page, on the right-hand side we have widgets. There's instructions on how to set up MyMathLab in a separate video, and by the time you watch this video, you will have already accomplished registering for MyMathLab. So now, if we come over here to eCampus and click on the Pearson MyLab and Mastering widget, then we're going to have this page that opens. What we can do is we can do a couple of things to access MyMathLab. We can either do the yellow Open MyLab and Mastering button, which is what I'm going to do, or if you want to, you can go to All Assignments, which is just going to open up your homework and major exam assignments. I'm actually going to go into the yellow link so that I've got all the goodies that MyMathLab has to offer, and I can show you each of those goodies. Okay, so as we come into MyMathLab, and then it will open into a course home. Your MyMathLab is going to look a little bit different than mine. Over here to the side, y'all see I have particular modules that has a little person with a slash through it. That means that those modules are not going to be visible to you. So what you should see over here on the side are modules such as course home, assignment, study plan, and so forth. So the first thing I'm going to look at is just the course home. I will tell you that I will do all the communication through eCampus. So I actually am not going to post any kind of announcements over here on MyMathLab. I will tell you that the only thing that might be important for you is there may be a list of assignments that are coming due, or sometimes there's an announcement from MyMathLab if they're going to have maintenance and they're going to be down for a particular period of time, then they will put that here on this front page. Okay, the next thing down is assignments. Okay, if we go into assignments here, this is actually all assignments, which we'll see homeworks, and then we'll also see major exams. Let me show you both of those two things. Homework and major exams obviously work differently. Homework assignments you can work on a little piece at a time, and you can return to those assignments at a later time. So here we see an assignment. It contains 30 questions. I could do the first 10 questions, and then if I need to take a break or get interrupted, then it will save the work or the answers that I've done on those first 10 questions. And I can return to this assignment at a later date. The MyMathLab homework is the only assignment for this semester that you can actually work on past the due date for a 30% deduction. What that means is if you have a problem that is worth a point, then if you work it and you work it entirely correct, then you're going to get 30% deducted, which means that you'll get 3/10 of a point deducted. And so if you get it totally right, you get 0.7 of the full 1 point of that particular problem. So you can basically work each problem for 70% versus 100%. Okay, if it's not past the due date, you'll get full credit. So we see here this is due on this particular date at that particular time. So if I come down here now, I want to show you how the actual questions work. I'm going to go ahead and maximize this so we can see it. Okay, on here, these are some orientation questions, and so I'm going to actually kind of skip over these. I want to show you a more traditional homework problem. You can skip around in your problems. I'm going to come down here. Let's say we do number 15. All right, so on this particular one, this is a factoring problem. Some of these, you have problems where you guys actually have to click and enter the actual answer. Some are multiple choice. This is actually kind of looks like almost a combination of both. It's either not factorable or you guys will need to enter the answer here for that particular problem. Let me navigate to a different question. You can see kind of a variety of questions here. Okay, this one says factor is a difference of two squares. Y'all see on this one, obviously it must factor because we don't have the option of saying it's prime. I'm going to go ahead and show you here on just a quick easy navigation. To factor, we want to use parentheses. And on this one, the factor the difference of squares, this one would be 3x plus, this would be 4 y in this situation, close the parentheses, and then open another one, and then 3x minus 4y. That would be the proper factorization of that particular problem. And then we come over here on the right-hand side, and on the bottom, there's a check answer button. So we can do check answer. If we get it correct, it'll say, yay, you got it right. Next question. And then if you get it wrong, you actually have the opportunity to work it again. When you get it right, it goes to the next one. Okay, on this particular one, I'm actually on purpose going to get this one wrong so that you can see what will happen when you get it wrong. Notice that this particular problem uses s's as the variable. A lot of the times we're not, I'm going to say, paying attention to that, and if you're not careful, you might accidentally put x's instead of s's. So let's say we need factors of 20 on this one that would add or subtract to negative 12. So maybe we could use 2 and 10. Both of them would have to be negative. So let's say that this is the way I'm entering it in. So that's actually the correct factorization, but just with the wrong variable. So if I say check answer, it says, sorry, that's not correct, and then it'll give you a little bit of hint. And notice here it says, remember to write the trinomial in descending powers of s. So we've done everything right as far as starting the problem off and doing the right thing, but we used the wrong variable. And so on here we can say, oh yeah, okay, so let's come back up here and edit. Looks like I'm gonna have to arrow over on this one. And change that to S. And change that to S. Also notice down here at the bottom you have tools. So like if you need a fraction of some kind, you've got that. If you need a root, you've got that. You can also click the more button. You've got all kinds of things down here. Okay, so there's always a palette there at the bottom if you need it. You can do check answer. It says good job, next question. Now, I'm going to very on purpose, I'm going to say kind of make this badly wrong. So let's say the answer here's 5. We know that's not right. Check answer, sorry, that's not right. And we say, man, we're going to rework this again. We very badly say the answer's 10. We're not even getting close on this one. And let's say the answer is 10 again. And then notice here it now says final check. You essentially have 3 times to try a single problem with the same numbers. And then after that, it will give you the correct answer and say, hey, this is what you really should have gotten. This is what your answer was. And then as opposed to marking this completely wrong and going to the next question, you can work similar question. Okay, if you do go to the next question and then come back up here, notice that was number 12, it put a big X next to number 12. But if we go back to number 12 and we do similar question, then it will regenerate the same problem but with different numbers. So you have another try. Now what this means is it means that on your homework, you should really be able to get 100% on all assignments if you spend enough time on them and, questions that you do end up having you research. You can either, look at the book or there's a question help over here on the side. There's a help me solve this, a view an example. You can use the textbook. You can also do Ask My Instructor. So by the way, if you email me from Ask My Instructor and don't hear back from me within 24 hours, please let me know. Last semester I had some difficulties with students using the Ask My Instructor button. I'm hoping by now MyMathLab has it straightened out, but always let me know if you don't hear back from me. There's a possibility that you sent me an email and I never received it. But you can also always email me through your Blend account to my Blend account, and that will work as well. All right, so you have a save button up here on the upper right hand side. So if, let's say at this point I get interrupted, I want to go ahead and save my work. Then when I go back in, y'all can see the questions I've worked correctly are marked as correct. The one I've attempted but got wrong, and I was working on a similar question, still marked wrong. If I reattempt that and get it right, it will then change this to a green check mark. All right, now on here, here's my current score. I will import y'all's grades from MyMathLab into eCampus after each exam. So when y'all take a major exam, I'll make sure to import all of your homework grades, your exam grade from MyMathLab into eCampus. So this is something that doesn't happen automatically. This is something that I actually come in and do. The next thing I want to show you is what we call, actually let me go back to assignments right quick. And let me look at that major exam. When you click into a major exam, it says, hey, this requires a lockdown browser. So before you start, make sure to follow the instructions to check your browser. So on here, we would download the Pearson lockdown browser and follow through the instructions that go with that. Okay, I'm going to pause for just a minute while that does its thing, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, so I've downloaded the Pearson Lockdown browser, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Start Test. Now, I don't want to do this until I've prepared for the exam. So notice here I have I'm on 0 of 2 attempts. So you have 2 attempts for each of these exams. You have 100 minutes to complete the assignment. There's 26 questions, and it tells up at the top what lessons this particular exam covers. So I would not actually want to start this test until I'm fully prepared for it. But I'm going to go ahead and pretend like I am, start the test. I want to open the Lockdown browser, and then it's going to not allow me to have any other, I'm going to say programs open as I start the test. So I'd actually have to close these particular programs before I could start the exam. It'll have your time remaining on the exam, and then the big difference between an exam and a homework is you're not going to know if you have the questions right or wrong as you go along. There's some questions that are multiple choice, and then there's other questions where you have to type in the answers. I'm not going to actually go ahead and start this exam because it will close out the program that I'm using to record this video on. But on here, I did want to point out there's obviously a big difference between the major exams and the homework. On here, the very first question is always on these major exams is that you're going to pledge not to use any notes, textbooks, or any reference materials during this assignment. I expect your work to be completely your own. You're going to pledge that you have neither given or received aid from any other person or possibly device during this assignment, and that your work is entirely your own. And you also understood that you can use an approved calculator on the exam. The approved calculator is listed in your syllabus. All right, when you're done, you could submit your exam. I'm going to go ahead and do that. You wouldn't want to do this. Obviously, I'd have a 0. But when you submit your exam, then you're going to be able to go back and look at the score that you have on that particular exam. I would have had a 0. And then it should be the next time that you open it, if you decide you're not happy with your score, then it will tell you, hey, you've attempted this once, you've got one more attempt remaining. And then when you do that, I will always take the better score of the 2. All right, let me come down here to study plan. There's certain topics that you may feel like you need more help with. So in study plan, always come over to all chapters up here. And then you can navigate to the chapter that you're working in. Let's say that we're doing continuity and you're having trouble, and you can come down, and these are just extra problems that you're able to practice. This is not going to hurt your score. It's not going to help your score as far as grades are concerned, but just give you extra practice with particular topics. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is the static ebook. There's an e-text for our course. It takes a little bit for it to open up. You're going to have to kind of be patient for it. There's also an app that you can download, and when you log into MyMathLab with your eCampus login, then it will allow you to access your book on your phone through the app. Over here, there's a little hamburger key that is basically your contents of the book. So we can come down here, chapter, let's say 11. We're looking at maybe continuity. Then we'll be able to actually read through that particular section of the text. Up here at the top, there's little arrows that will allow you to navigate left and right. Let's see here. There's a print. I don't know if you want to print it necessarily. There's something you can press to do search. And then here you can show zoom in, zoom out. If you want to, if you're looking for something specifically that you don't have to read a lot for, you can make it show a page at a time, and then you can click through to find it. So like say, oh, this is something I want to look at, was that piecewise function. I could go to there and then zoom in and make it so that I could read it. All right, I'm going to come back over. This opened a new tab, so I'm going to come back over here to the static ebook tab. There's also a chapter contents tab. This works similarly, but it allows you to, I'm going to say, kind of do more things. There's a chapter opener, chapter review. I'm going to say this is not as helpful because you're going to do your homework and all that either through eCampus. It will take you directly to your homework, or through your all assignments. So the chapter contents is not as helpful. And then, oh, notice there that I had to actually come back up to the top of MyMathLab and press on main menu to get me back to here. And then down here at the bottom, there's a Tools for Success. In here, you may see things that will help you as far as some, like an algebra review. There's also some graphing calculator manuals, so that actually might help you. And then the multimedia library, there's a link in eCampus that will take you directly here. But this is nice. So let's say we're struggling over continuity, since we seem to be talking about continuity. So we go to 11. So we're going to go to 11, which is derivatives, and then continuity, which is section 2. And then let's say we want a video on that. So we can say find now, and it will pop up with the videos that are over continuity. And these are videos that are made by the publisher. And so it's not going to go along with our notes, but it'll give you other examples, and they're very useful sometimes. Let's see if there's anything else. I think for now, that's all I wanted to show you. So let me know if you ever have any questions in MyMathLab. The other thing I want to show you just quickly is you can either get to MyMathLab the way that we did through the yellow or orange link here, or the way that I'm going to encourage you to get to it is when you go to content and you actually navigate to the week that you're working on. Let's say you're working in week 2 and you're doing limits, then the way you're going to access MyMathLab, the way I'm going to encourage you to, is here. The only issue there is it takes you only to your homework and your exams. So if you want any of the other goodies, then you may want to navigate through the yellow button. If you don't necessarily mind just looking at the homework and the exams, then you can come here with no issues. The other thing is, for your convenience, I've also inserted the link to the multimedia library, which would be, if you need to search for another video. All right, let me know if you have any other questions about MyMathLab.